Hello and welcome to 4 Random Books number 20. Who'd have thought it would get this far? So today we're going to do intelligence and broadly speaking, and it's going to be, how do I put this politely? Well, I'm hoping to make it shorter than the previous one because what I've done is I've got smaller books out. So it's not just intelligence, it's small books. Starting off with this one, Special Operations Executive Manual, How to Be an Agent in Occupied Europe. And I particularly enjoy this one. Let's see. Where was the one I would like to read? It's a great one about hiding yourself in private. How to defend yourself against surveillance. 1. Routine precautions. Whenever you are going anywhere or on secret walk, you must automatically take routine precautions, which will make it difficult for you to be secretly watched. A. You should always be on the alert to notice strangers hanging about, especially when you're leaving any house. Doubly so when walking a dog. They don't add that. I added that one. B. Do not go straight to your destination. Sounds like going for a drive with half my family. C. Make use of a vehicle, either public or private. If you use the former, board it on the run. If you use the latter, do not take one which offers to pick you up and start by telling the driver the wrong destination. You should never take a vehicle right up to your destination, but complete the journey on foot. Again, must have been going driving with my family. Make some innocent visits on the way. Visit at least one crowded place. Do not walk or hang about in places where you could easily be watched without detecting it. If you suspect you're being watched, A. Show no signs of suspicion. Do not quicken your pace and do not look around unnecessarily. B. Postpone your immediate job, avoiding making contact with other agents. Use of danger signal. C. Check up to make sure that you are really being watched and to get the description of the watcher or watchers. It is essential to do this because you may easily imagine that you are being watched, especially if your nerves are strained. It's pretty cool. The following methods may be used. 1. Find some pretext to look round, e.g. crossed road, drop a shoe, light pipe, or watch a pretty girl. II. Isolate the watcher from the crowd by going into an empty street or shop. III. Surprise the watcher and make him betray his surprise by some quick movement, e.g. jumping on bus, changing direction, stopping around a corner, all with a good pretext. NB. Remember that there may be more than one watcher. Do not be satisfied with detecting only one. It's a cool book, and it's a lot of fun to read, and I used it actually when I was doing a summer course at Cambridge, teaching a summer course. It was one of the text books I set the students, and I think they enjoyed it. Certainly enjoyed using it for one of the final tests. Okay, back on track after a little break. This one's Elizabeth Spymaster, and it's got pictures. It's all about Sir Francis Walsingham. It's got maps, well, what they had for maps in the time, and all sorts of things in it. It is a really, really cool book. Cohorts of distinguished lawyers were assembled to consider legality of her trying in England, sparking a legal debate that presaged similar discussions before the trials of the surviving leaders of the Third Reich at Nuremberg from November 1945, or indeed of Saddam Hussein in Iraq in 2005. Then, as now, page after page of legal argument was scribbled, well spattered with Latin phrases as learned counsel cast back into antiquity in a quest of precedence. Objection. If it be objected in respect of a person that she is an anointed queen and an absolute princess, and therefore not subject to the jurisdiction of her majesty. Answer. It may be doubted whether she is a queen because she stands deposed in Scotland, and she has willingly left all her right and interest in the same realm to her son James VI. A king deposed is not after to be taken for a king. Therefore, Frederick, King of Naples, being deposed by the King of Spain, was afterwards judged as no king by sentence. Every prince without his own territory is no more than a private person. Objection. If it be objected that the offence wherein she is charged is not delictum consummatum, a complete crime, and therefore not punishable by death in her person, to which law she submits herself. Answer. It may be said in respect to her allegiance to the crown of England, her actions are to be measured according to the positive laws of the said realm, than by the laws of nations. By these laws her actions are treason. Aliens and strangers are not exempt from the force and penalties of laws which are enacted, and published whereby they remain. A king in all other kings' territories may commit treason as another private person. After days spent sifting through their lawyers' opinions, Burleigh and Walsingham decided that they could convince both Elizabeth and public opinion that Mary could be tried for treason quite lawfully. The all-important legal gloss had been deposited upon her destruction. She would be tried by a commission of no fewer than 24 privy councillors and other nobles, under the terms of the acts for the surety of the Queen's person passed the previous year. Elizabeth needed little persuasion of the Scottish Queen's guilt. She urged Mary's jailer, Sir Almost Paula, "Let your wicked murderess know how with hearty sorrow her vile deserts compel these orders, and bid her from me to ask God for her forgiveness, for her treacherous dealings towards the savour of her life many a year to the intolerable peril of her own." Elizabeth declared that Mary's money should be seized and her servants sacked, possibly in the hope that such pressure would make her seriously ill and even kill her, thus neatly sparing the Queen the problem of ordering her execution. Walsingham doubted the wisdom of such a policy. On 5th September he told Paulet, "Her pleasure being such, I do not see why you should now any longer forbear the putting of the same in execution. If afterwards the inconveniences happen, her Majesty can blame none but herself for it." He was away from court, but because of inflammation in his right leg, caused by a painful boil, and therefore I cannot debate the matter with Her Majesty as I would. Despite his affliction, Walsingham was wasting no time in making his arrangements to bring the Scottish Queen legally to book, anxious as he was to execute her before Christmas 1586. That afternoon he told Paulet he was meeting with Burleigh and Hatton to decide whether Mary should be moved to Fotheringay Castle, Northamptonshire, or to the Tower of London for the trial. Their sensible recommendation was the Tower for greater security, but for Elizabeth that would be too close to home, and she flatly rejected the idea. Hertford Castle, northeast of London, was also considered, but again turned down as a prisoner. On the morning of 9th September, Paulet moved to confiscate Mary's cash. We found her, in bed, troubled of the old manner with a defluctuation open sore which was fallen down into the side of her neck, and had bereft her of the use of one of her hands, he recounted to Walsingham afterwards. After many denials, many exclamations, and many bitter words against you, I say nothing of her railing against myself, with flat affirmation that Her Majesty might have her body, but her heart she can never have, refusing to deliver the key of her cabinet, I called my servants and sent for crowbars to break open the door, whereupon she yielded and caused the door to be opened. Inside, Paulet found 5,000 French crowns, 2 bags containing £104 2 cents, or £14,500 in modern monetary values, and £3 of silver. The latter left with her as she claimed that she had no more money in the house and she owed her servants their wages. More money was found in the chamber of her secretary, Claude Now, amounting to £1,445, 18 shillings, approximately £200,000. Further searches from a casket containing all Mary's seals and further cash in gold and silver. On the 25th September, Mary arrived on a heavy armed escort at Fotheringay, 75 miles from London, after a 4-day journey from the unhealthy manor house at Chatley, where she had been imprisoned since the previous December. Preparations for the trial were already in full swing. Walsingham employed Patrick, Master of Grey, one of James VI's gentlemen of the bedchamber, and Master of his wardrobe to discover the Scottish king's attitude towards the trial of his mother. Robert Douglas, Provost of Lincoln, and a Scottish Privy Councillor, wrote to Archibald Douglas, the Scottish Ambassador in London, of James's misliking of the wicked intentions of Her Majesty's evil-disposed subjects, and thinks if the same had taken effect to have been no less in danger thereby as if it had been meant against his own person, insofar as his mother may be burdened. I find His Majesty in no ways minds the rigour shall be used against her. Gray also reported that James believed that Mary should be put in a tower or some other firmaments and kept from intelligence, her own servants taken from her, and such to be culpably punished rigorously, and that in the future those about her should be in the pay of Elizabeth. An interesting idea. Burley meanwhile sketched a plan of the great chamber on the first floor of Fotheringay, with special fittings for the trial. Against one wall was canopied a cloth of state, brightly blazoned with the arms of England, positioned above a throne set on a dais for Elizabeth, although the chance of her attending the hearing were less than slim. A waist-high rail, as in the Parliament chamber, was stretched across the room, separating the well of the court from neither part, for all persons not being in the commission, nor of the Queen's learned council. Despite Burley's original plans, a high-backed chair upholstered in crimson velvet was placed for Mary, not directly facing the throne as he ordered, but immediately to its right. Before her would be a table for the lawyers and the papers, and behind and in front along the walls low benches to seat the commissioners. The room was draped with velvet, intended to add to the majesty, if not the appearance of legality, of the occasion. On the 6th of October, Thomas Randolph, the English ambassador to Mary's court in Scotland during the 1560s, announced his intention, with permission, to attend the proceedings because of his knowledge of that woman's former dealings against Her Majesty. It's how to stack the bases. Francis Walsingham. The Secret History of the Blitz. Yeah, I know it's not quite intelligence, but it shows the failure of intelligence. For some, there was an acceptance of a plain situation. When Walter Miller said to his parents, "We've lost the war, haven't we?" he was not contradicted. Instead, he was told, "You mustn't say that." He took this as tacit admission that the war, in his parents' eyes, was indeed lost, and humour, which the consensus deems was so important in this period, could amount to defiance of her acceptance. Carol Brahms kept a Blitz diary full of observations. She recorded being cheerfully greeted one morning by a warden with the words, "Real invasion, Weather," and notes the following conversation with her close friend Jack Burgle. In the evening, the Burgle told me that he had composed a speech to the firing squad in case of invasion. It was a good speech, he said, not angry or bitter, but pitying. Suddenly a look of anxiety settled on his face. "Do you think they will understand English?" he asked. I planned to get him a German-English dictionary next day, but in the morning the joke seemed a little too grim. For Brahms and Burgle, who was killed a year later while serving with the Royal Air Force, a joke born of defiance threatened to stray into the acceptance. A seemingly illogical but common reaction is noted by author Ronald Blythe. Fully aware of the corresponding strength and weakness of the British and German armed forces, Blythe expected invasion, yet in the face of all the evidence he refused to believe the Germans could win. Bernard Kreger was an ARP messenger boy in East London who would go on to serve valiantly with Bomber Command. As a Jew, he remembers fully understanding the implications of a German victory. "We had no illusions," he says, "as to what would happen if we lost, no illusions at all. But it never entered Bernard's mind that the British could lose. Such an outcome was singly not possible for Bernard Kreger. You asked me why I felt like that. He says, I don't know, but I truly believed it wouldn't happen. Truly never believed it would happen." There are, of course, well-established psychological reasons why people might refuse to acknowledge a genuine danger. I'm not sure if you well understand the military capabilities of Germany versus Britain. Tanks do not cross water alone. They need ships. And yeah, German air power was amazing, but not that amazing. Not whole British fleet prepared to go on death ride to destroy invasion force amazing. What would be interesting is after the British fleet had done that, what then happened, and what happened with the Battle of Atlantic. But, in the actual invasion, unlikely. Battle Atlantic then becoming far, far more difficult, very highly likely. World famous Spies. By Damon Wilson mainly, but Colin and Rowan are also mentioned on the front. And I'm going to go for Mithridates the Great. 2 centuries after Alexander, the first man, as far as we know, to use spying to achieve military conquest was a Turk, who is now known as Mithridates the Great. In fact, Turkey did not then exist. It was confusingly part of Asia, but Mithridates was born in the part that was then called Pontus, on the Black Sea. His father died when he was young, almost certainly murdered by his mother, whose name has failed to come down to us, a highly ambitious woman who intended to rule by her 11-year-old son. But young Mithridates was proved to have a mind of his own, and when several unsuccessful attempts to be made on his life, he took the hint and fled into exile, leaving the throne to his younger, more tractable brother. His years as a fugitive were not wasted. As he wandered around Asia Minor, he learned 22 languages and dialects, but soon realized that this was not enough if he wanted to go unnoticed. So, like Kipling's Kim, he used to disguise himself as a street urchin and studied local customs and dialects until he could pass a native. Nobody paid much attention to the shabby teenage beggar, so he was able to wander wherever he pleased and study a lie of the land while he learned about the size and disposition of their defensive forces. After several years of information gathering, he returned to Pontus a wiser and rather more dangerous young man. He soon organized a coup in which he overthrew his mother and younger brother. He imprisoned them both and later had them executed. It must be admitted that Mithridates was a particularly unpleasant young man, but no more than so than most rulers at the time. Honestly, just having people executed, that's nothing. But it's over 15 minutes, so 4 books for intelligence. I hope you enjoyed them. I hope you enjoyed this session, and well, thank you. And thank you especially to all my patrons, because they really do make all this stuff viable. Thank you.